There's a kind of tiredness spiritual people rarely admit, a bone-deep fatigue that comes from the endless seeking, from chasing awakening like it's a finish line, from treating every experience as a lesson, every emotion as a message, every setback as a sign. Seeking is romantic until it becomes a compulsion, until the hunger for clarity becomes heavier than the confusion ever was. I don't think most of us burn out from the world. I think we burn out from the pressure to transcend it. At least I know I do. Spiritual culture hints at there always being a next level, a next shadow to integrate, a next trauma to heal, a next mystical insight waiting just around the corner. And for a while, in my case a really long time, that belief keeps you alive. It gives you direction. It promises meaning. But if you're not careful, the search becomes an addiction. I started chasing epiphanies like gamblers chase luck. And I started believing that stillness was stagnation and rest was some kind of regression. It's easy to forget that you're not on a staircase called growth. Growth is more like a tide. I think the deepest irony is that the more spiritual language you learn, the easier it becomes to explain your avoidance. When you're collapsing, you call it surrender. When you're spiraling, you call it shadow work. And when you're afraid, well, that's just your intuition. Underneath all of it, though, is a child who's tired of trying so hard to be wise. Seeking becomes just another mask that the psyche wears to hide its own exhaustion. Being a seeker can at times be isolating. You start to believe your inner work sets you apart from others, that you're ahead or further along. But I think progress becomes a prison the moment you start measuring yourself by it. You can be surrounded by people and still feel like you're walking your path alone, carrying insights no one else can confirm. And it feels like the loneliest moment is when you finally realize that awakening doesn't make you special. It makes you tender. I think every seeker I've met fears one thing, that if they stop searching, their life will fall apart, or worse, they might become ordinary. But I don't think stopping is the same as giving up. Stopping is how you return to the body you abandoned on the path. Stopping is how you remember that enlightenment was never the reward. You were looking for presence. I think sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is let the road vanish beneath your feet. After years of seeking, the vocabulary becomes overwhelming. Shadow work, ego death, inner child, projection, reparenting, triggers, trauma imprinting, divine timing, synchronicity. Every emotion becomes a thesis, and all of our instincts become a puzzle. It seems like we start to miss the simplicity of just feeling something without decoding it or assigning higher meaning. Some people reach this point where their intellect is enlightened, but their nervous system is starving. There's this moment where you realize you're done. Not finished, just done. Done with the pressure, done with the striving, done with the marathon of self-improvement. It happens in silence or in the background. Maybe you're washing dishes. Maybe you're sitting in traffic. Maybe someone says something simple and it cracks the whole scaffolding of your spiritual ambition. You suddenly realize you don't need more answers. You need a life. You need breath. You need softness. You need room to be unremarkable. And I think it's in that moment that seeking dissolves like a mist. When the fever breaks, the world returns to color. Food tastes like food again. People feel like people. And silence is no longer ominous. It's warm. You stop trying to be enlightened and start becoming available to your relationships, to your body, to the tiny rituals that hold your days together. You discover the wisdom you were chasing wasn't hidden, it was just waiting. And its voice is so low that only a rested mind can hear it. I honestly used to think awakening was a mountaintop moment. Now I know it's a series of small openings, subtle, ordinary, and human. I used to think the path was the point, but now I know, and I know I say this so much, but now I know the point is presence. So here I am, a recovering seeker, not making some grand renouncement of the journey, but just relaxing and releasing the urgency. I don't think I want transcendence anymore. I want texture. I want breath. I want a life I don't need to escape from. And if that is awakening, then I hope it's gentle. I hope it's not too loud. And I hope it's enough.